5 miles west and 5 miles south of town. Site 2 is on Union, 1 mile west and 4 miles south of town. Site 3 is on Union, a half a mile west and 2 miles south of town. Site 4 is on Taylor, 2 miles west and 1.5 miles north of town. Site 5 is on Taylor, it's on a golf course bridge. Site 6 is below Madison, 1.5 miles east of town. Site 7 is on Union, 3 miles east and 1/2 miles south of town.
WQI is a standard used all around the world to test different kinds of waters to one standard. And there are 9 tests which we do, which are dissolved oxygen, fecal chloroform, BOD, pH, nitrates, phosphates, total solids, and turbidity. And we also do a water discharge test, which is our flow. So to find our WQI, the first thing we'll do is get our number that we get out of our colorimeter, and we will put it in this Q value chart, and we'll follow it up to where it meets the curve. And so 6, for an example, you would follow it up and then over, and it would be about 56 for our Q value. Then we put that Q value in this column, and we multiply it by the weighing factor, and the bigger the weighing factor, the more relevance it has to water quality. So DO, it has the most significance because it has the biggest number. And then we add up all our totals, and we get our overall WQI. And then we get a range from 25, and ours is about 60. And so our creeks are usually from the bad to medium range.
In the month of May, we had a total of 2 and 6,600 inches of rain. In June, we had a total of 1,700 inches of rain. In July, we had a total of 1,100 inches of rain, but on the 23rd, the rain that we collected, it didn't affect our test because it rained after we got done collecting. And then in August, we had 1 and 5,200 inches of rain, and for each, we collected rain for 5 days prior to our data collecting.
DO, or dissolved oxygens, is the amount of oxygen that we find in our creeks. It's one of the most important tests because it determines the need of oxygen in order for the living organisms to survive. So from the data we collected, as you can see, June turned out to be the highest throughout its sites, around 70%. But unlike June, you see we have lower oxygen levels. And for that reason, it's because of temperature. Temperature plays a big part because during those cold months, the water has the ability to store more oxygen, and whereas the warmer climate, it releases more oxygen than storing, which leads us to why we have low oxygen levels for May, July, and August.
Fecal coliform is found in the intestines of warm-blooded animals, and what we do for this test is we take 2 mils of our sample of water and we add it to a nutrient auger, and we mix it up and we let it sit for 48 hours, and we come in and we test the purple dots, because the purple dots are specifically Escherichia coli because they are the most pathogenic to humans and most harmful, and the other ones are just other types of fecal coliforms that aren't as harmful. So for fecal coliform, we want it under the 235 colonies per 100 mils. This year we only had around 5 underneath that cautionary line, and that is because most of our sites run through cattle pastures and fields where cattle have been. And the reason we have the most spikes in August and May is because there was a lot of rainfall and therefore a lot of runoff into our creek.
pH is the measure of acidity in the water, and when we did our tests, we wanted them to stay between the 2 cautionary lines there, and for most of the summer they did, so that was good.
BOD, or biological oxygen demand, is the amount of oxygen that we see being used by our plants, macroinvertebrates, or any other living organism that use oxygen. So what we did here is take a site sample and bring it back to the classroom and have it sit in a dark area for 5 days. And the reason it sits in a dark area is because we want to prevent photosynthesis, because photosynthesis creates more oxygen, and we don't want more oxygen than it already has in the sample. So after the 5-day period, this is what we got. The results are required to be at 0. As you can see, we do have scattered around, and the highest we got was around like 6.5. But compared to other watershed testing, this BOD wasn't so bad.
This is the temperatures that we got when we measured the temperature, and when we would go to collect the data for this, we would take the temperature at the site and a mile upstream from the site. And as it went downstream, the temperature was supposed to get warmer, and it did for the most part, but there's a couple times where it didn't, and we think that this is because of like an underground spring with fresh water, so that's why some of them are going down instead of up. Okay. Phosphate measures how much phosphorus is in the water. Usually it comes from the crop fields through runoff, and it boosts life growth, but too much of it can cause overgrowth and cause the organisms in the stream to suffocate, and this is called eutrophication when that happens, and we don't want that to happen.
Nitrates are like phosphates because they're common fertilizers, and the numbers for nitrates are so high this year because of the rain, the runoff from all the rainfall, and we want them to be under the cautionary line, which is 1 parts per million, and our numbers are better this year than they are last year, but we still want them to be below the cautionary line.
Right.
Gervais is how we want the water clear so the plants can produce photosynthesis in the water. All our numbers were low this year except in May because we stirred up the water. Total solids is a test to see how much sticks and stones are in the water. Our numbers were relatively low this year, except in May we stirred up the water for the sticks and stones to flow around in there.
Flow is the measure of how much water is going through the stream at a certain time in the river. We measure flow by taking the depth, the width, and how fast the water is moving at a certain point in the stream to calculate how much water is actually moving through the stream. It's important to have flow because when there's more water, it gets churned up and it adds more oxygen to the water, and with more water there is more availability for pollutants to get diluted into the stream. In May we did not test because the water was too high to get in. In June, flow went up for site 2, back down for site 3, up for sites 4 and 5, and back down for sites 6 and 7. In July, it went up only a few times for sites 2, 6, and 7. And in August, it shot up for sites 2 and 3 because we just had rain those past few days. It went back down for site 4, up for site 5, and we did not test at site 6 and 7 because the water was too high for us to get in and actually test. This is our chart for our overall WQI for all of our sites. The top portion is the medium, so the 50 to 70 range, and the bottom is the bads, which is 25 to 50 range. We have more mediums than we did last year, and we believe that's because as we have more experience with our tests, our tests are getting more accurate and we're getting closer numbers. but we still would like more of the bads to get up into the medium range.
Chemical test conclusions. We had more rain than last summer. DO was below cautionary line all summer. DO dropped over the summer. Nitrates were low all summer, but still above the cautionary line. Fecal coliforms were lower than last summer, and more sites had higher WQIs.
Macroinvertebrates are insects with no backbone and are large enough to be seen with the naked eye. These insects are a good way to tell what type of waters we have because there are different macroinvertebrates with different tolerances. The tolerant insects can live in polluted waters while the sensitive insects need clean water habitat. We want the sensitive insects.
This is the form that we use to test the samples of macroinvertebrates that we caught. With this form, we would get the number of mayflies, gomphidae, and beetles, which are sensitive bugs, and write them down in this number of metric organism column. With the tolerant bugs, we'd write it in this box. After that, we'd add up the total number of macroinvertebrates to write in this column and this box down here. After that, we'd divide across to get a percent for both the sensitive and the tolerant bugs. Using those percents, we'd go to the other side of the form to write in the metric value column. Using this, we'd see which numbers they would fit in between to get a score. The higher the score, the better condition you have of a stream. If you get 8 or below, it's unacceptable. Between 8 and 14 is partially, and above 14 is acceptable. These are the results for the macroinvertebrates that we caught. The ones indicate all of the samples that we caught that were mostly tolerant bugs. The 2s represent a mix of both tolerant and sensitive bugs, while the 3, which we only had 1 of, represented a catch that we had a lot of sensitive bugs.
This is the Topeka shiner, and it used to be on the endangered species list. And we've actually found a couple of them in our streams while we're testing. And usually they're found all throughout Midwest Nebraska. And when we found them, we actually found them in the opposite stream of what they were supposed to be in. But we're glad that we found some.
In these pictures up here, we're actually getting ready to go into the site, and here we're actually taking temperature at the site.
In these pictures, we are testing for flow. We're testing the depth there, and the one below it, we're taking the width of the creek, and we are looking for bugs right there.
In these two pictures, we're getting ready to go into the creek. In this picture, we're testing for more bugs. In here, we're doing chemical tests that need to be done at the site. This picture and this picture, we're actually doing our chemical test conclusions in the classroom. And this is a picture of Isabel holding a fan that she found at one of the sites.
In these pictures, we're getting into the stream, and Annie got stuck in the mud, and she was trying to get out. And we found there was a cow at one of our sites, and we had to have someone chase it away, and we named her Bessie the cow.
We take our work pretty seriously, but we also like to have fun too.
Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to Lower Elkhorn Natural Resources District, Madison Public Schools, Professor Hayford from Wayne State College, and Dave Schumacher from the NDEQ. Are there any questions?